All right, it is springtime. The weather's great, so let's do a podcast. All right, I have yet another Canadian lined up to join us today. In fact, I was telling her a couple days ago that I think the Canadians are the funnest group on the planet. She did not argue with that. So all the way from Ponoka, Alberta, let's talk to Maddison Pearman.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So what do you think? Is that a fair assessment that the Canadians are the funnest group?
Yeah, I would say that we're a fun group. This past season, I've definitely got to know more of the international skaters a bit better. They're a lot of fun. And obviously, I love my Canadian teammates, but it is something so special to be able to go and meet other people and hang out with other skaters and just make friends with them. And yeah, we're fun, but, the whole circuit is a pretty great time.
I can only imagine. So, I said Ponoka, Alberta, and I'm sure everybody knows exactly where that is, but I think if you draw a line between Calgary and Edmonton and you fold it in half, are we in Ponoka?
Pretty much, yeah. That's exactly how I explain it too. If you've ever gone to Edmonton or Edmonton to Calgary, you'll definitely see all the signs of Ponoka, and it's almost dead straight in the middle. So it was close for me to go to both places, which was really nice.
Right off of two. So if you're in Ponoka, are you an Edmonton Oilers fan or a Calgary Flames fan?
I'm actually a Winnipeg Jets fan.
Oh.
Yeah, I do like the Oilers more than the Flames. My mom's best friend, her husband played for the Oilers, so like growing up, we obviously cheered for them. But my mom's from Winnipeg, so when the Jets came back, my grandparents and cousins were like, "You're gonna cheer for them," and it was kind of nice. It was a bit of a family tie, so I was like, "Sure, I'll cheer for them," and they're doing great this season. So I always say the Jets will win the cup, but they haven't yet. Maybe this season.
Well, when was the last time a Canadian team won the cup? Do we know?
I want to say it was in 90. I think it's 93. I feel like it's 30 years, but maybe give or take a few years there. But it's been a long time since Canada's actually a Canadian team has won it, because the Canadian guys always bring them home because hockey is full of Canadian players. But Canadian team, I don't know if I've seen one in my lifetime.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a huge hockey guy or hockey person, so who knows? But it's been a long time.
Well, let's get off hockey for a minute and talk about speed skating. So, you grew up essentially on a farm. So how in the world did you discover skating, or speed skating for that matter?
My mom actually grew up speed skating in Winnipeg, so she always stayed very involved in the sport. She was at Calgary during the '88 Olympics and was a big part of the organizing committee there, and has been a part of Alberta speed skating. So basically, as soon as we were old enough to skate, we went to Red Deer, which was the nearest club, because Ponoka didn't have one. So we just went to the nearest one there. And I have two sisters, a younger and older sister, and we kind of just went into it and never looked back. I never looked back. We did a ton of different sports, but speed skating for me was always something that I loved. It was unique, it was different, and I excelled at it from a young age, and just never looked back, I guess.
So let's talk about the Red Deer Club. What if I go to Red Deer during the season, what will I find there? Is there an outdoor oval? Yeah,
so we had a Canada Winter Games in 2019, and that's when our club moved locations. We were at it was called the Golden Circle. It was downtown Red Deer, and my mom skated there back in the 70s, I think, when she was young. So it was there for a really long time. And then we got Canada Winter Games, and we built a brand new facility in a nicer part of the city, and it's beautiful. I would love to host an outdoor World Cup there, and I think our club could probably do it, especially with my mom still being very involved in organizing it. But obviously, outdoor World Cups aren't going to happen. But it's a great facility there, and we've also moved our short track facility. So when I come home during Christmas, they're always really good at letting me go out and skate there. And the minus 40s aren't fun, but a +5 day, there's nothing better than skating outside. And I will like take that to the grave. Skating outside is amazing. And I wish we got to do it a bit more, but obviously it's a bit harder with the weather and not being as close to an outdoor oval.
Do you remember the last time you raced in Red Deer?
Yeah, it was actually COVID. Because Calgary had some chiller issues, so
Yeah.
the oval shut down, and we went to our club, or not the club, the national team started training in Red Deer. They would drive there a couple times a week, and that's also when I moved home because I was like, my parents live 40 minutes from Red Deer. I'm not going to drive an hour and a half to go. So we skated there and trained, and then we did some practice races, which again was so nice to race. It was not super warm, so it was a bit chilly, but it brought back a lot of memories of skating outside and doing mass starts outside. And yeah, I loved it. It was great. I mean, COVID wasn't great, but skating outside I really enjoyed kind of getting back to my roots and doing a lot of that training.
Well, that year is interesting. So I talk about this on the show quite often. So you and I decide we're going to do an interview, and then at some point I'm going to start doing all kinds of research and trying to look at your career and look for interesting stuff. And then, if I'm looking at results on speed skating results, when I dial up that year 2021, there's not a single result that was posted because you guys, you lost the refrigeration system in Calgary, and then you just trained and went to Red Deer, and then some people went to the bubble. Do you remember that whole thing? Like, was there a discussion about who would go or who wanted to go, or how did that go down?
Yeah, I know there was a lot of discussion on how they would obviously fairly choose a team. We were planning on having trials. It was something that I think Speedskating Canada was looking at having, and then obviously with the chillers, that kind of X-made that decision, and they ended up looking at the team that had made the World Championships in 2020, and they figured that was the best way to choose a team. Whoever wanted to go on that team, that was it, and they wouldn't be filling any spots because a couple people did decline to go that had qualified. They just decided it was better or safer for them to stay home. So it wasn't really, not too many people really got an option. It was like if you had gone the year before, you get to go, and then that was kind of it.
So if we roll the clock back a little bit, you started showing up in Calgary and racing and such in 2009. It's kind of weird. Sometimes I like to find the first recorded race on speed skating results for people, and then say, oh, did you know this person was in the race? So I went and looked that up. And it was January 2009, something called the Alberta Open. But the weird thing is when I pulled the results up, they stuck you in with the men's results. I don't know why.
No.
So I couldn't see like who were the ladies that you raced with that day. But you were probably just 2009. I mean, were you maybe 13 years old or something?
Yeah,
like that?
So, yeah.
So that was
honestly, I probably raced with the guys. That's probably why.
Yeah, I don't know. So you launched your career then, and so you had a few time trials, but then I noticed something in 2011. You went to Japan, and you did some racing there. So how did you pull that off?
Yeah, so actually that was through the Alberta government. I don't know if they're still doing it anymore, but they had been doing it for like 25 years prior to that. Basically, a lot of the lottery winnings go towards sport in Alberta, and they pay for certain sports to go to Hokkaido, which is Alberta's sister province. So every year they do different sports. So speed skating was actually supposed to go in, when was it? 2010, I guess, maybe. I don't know. It was supposed to go, and then H1N1 happened, and the Japanese government was like, ooh, we don't really feel super comfortable making this work. Maybe let's put it off. And so the Japanese skaters came to Canada, to Calgary, and trained with us. And then in 2011, that's when, they reapplied and we got to go. And so they chose 10 female skaters and 10 male skaters. And then there was a handful of coaches and staff. My mom was there, and my older sister also went. So it was kind of like an application. Like you had to be a decent skater, but it also was more like a cultural experience. So you had to explain why you wanted to go and and what you would take from it. So yeah, and it was really crazy going back to over here this year for the World Cup, because we stayed in the same hotel.
Really?
The oval looks almost the same. Yeah. I kind of got into the hotel room and I was like, this looks so similar. And I was looking outside. I'm like, why this? We must have stayed here. And so I went on Facebook and started texting some of the girls that I went with. And I was like, guys, I'm staying in the same hotel. Like, it looks almost the same. The oval looks the same. I found some pictures of like where we took them. It was crazy, but it was like a great experience. And I think in OB Hero, both my races, I raced Miho. And she had just come back from the Olympics. And I was like, I'm not, there's people here that I'm probably better suited to race. I was the fastest girl that went on this exchange, but I'm like, Miho's like, she went to the Olympics. Like, I'm not even close to that. So that was, she only beat me by like 50 meters, I think, in one of the races, which I was like, I raced an Olympian. That's pretty cool. But it was just more of like a cultural experience to go and see Japan. And we raced a couple times and trained a couple times, but it was mostly just to kind of go and see a different place and meet new skaters there. And yeah, it was pretty cool. It was incredible to go, and it was my first like big experience, obviously, with skating in a different country and traveling.
Do you remember the food?
Yeah, they were pretty good at Americanizing or Canadianizing, the food there, but my mom's allergic to shellfish and we're beef farmers, so we don't eat fish. So that was a few times my sister and I were like, I guess we're just not going to eat. Like, we did go to a traditional Japanese place and we ate a lot of rice. So it was not maybe the best food for us, being young cattle farmers, but it was still pretty cool. We tried a little bit of it, and we found a McDonald's that we could get some food that we were used to, but it was pretty cool. But yeah, for sure, some of the stuff was very eye-opening for us.
How about the language? Did you even attempt to learn anything, or were you just with chaperones the whole time and it didn't matter?
Yeah, no, we were able to go out. I mean, like, I think you had to be in high school. I think that was the requirement of how age. So everyone was either grade 10 into maybe first year university. So we were all like quite a bit older, and we did have a bit of free time. And I think, I learned a little bit. We did have a translator with us, so that was fun, but she wasn't there all the time. So trying to like, talk to some of the skaters, and, you're going back and forth and it's just broken English, and you're like, I don't know what you're saying. I'm trying to like speak, but we got email addresses, and Instagram wasn't a huge thing at that point. So we kind of sent emails back and forth with some of them. And yeah, it was pretty cool. Like, we went to a school, we learned calligraphy, we did like a traditional Japanese tea ceremony, and they were so excited to have us. And I think me and another girl, we had blonde hair, so that was very new to them. It's not a natural hair color in Japan, so we became pretty big celebrities over there, and everyone wanted to take pictures with us. And yeah, we were big hits.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think back to getting on the ice, and you mentioned it already, you kind of felt like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Can you tell me, like, what kind of skater were you at that point? Do you know at that age, like, oh, I'm a middle distance person, or I can go longer, I can do everything? Or I know I've heard you say that I'm not a 500 skater, so we won't go there, but like, yeah. Who did you think you were back then?
I always did think I would be more of a sprinter. I never really liked the 3K. That was something that I never really enjoyed doing. So I kind of knew I always was going to be middle distance, more to the sprint side. And my mom was my coach, so she made me do everything anyway. So I didn't really have much of a choice on that. Some people, they can, and that was never an option for me. So I did have to do everything. But, I was more of a sprinter when I was younger. And even when I first moved to Calgary, definitely more of on the sprinter side. And then eventually when I moved to the national team, I ended up being more of that middle distance skater. But yeah, definitely knew that I was going to be, honestly, I think I always knew I was going to be a good 1,000-meter skater, because even in short track, I loved the 1,000-meter, and it's obviously different. But I always liked the 1,000, and as soon as I kind of transitioned more into long track, I was like, I love the 1,000 because like I have a good lap, but my opener, I'm just not that pure sprinty. I can't get a fast opener, but I can get a good lap and pull off a good 500 and, you know, have the fitness for a 15. But there's just something about the 1,000 that I always loved. And it's been my favorite distance since as long as I can remember, both on long track and short track. So I probably knew I always was going to be that middle distance skater.
How much short track have you done?
A lot. I was actually planning on doing short track. That was my goal. Like I wanted to pursue short track forever. I actually didn't really enjoy long track, and my mom will probably attest to that. My older sister loved long track, and I was a short tracker. But in Red Deer, we only have like ice, you know, December, some middle of December sometimes to January, middle of February. So the season's mostly short track. So most of my career up until I graduated from high school was actually short track based, and that's where I did all my training. And I moved down to the Oval for 2 summers and trained short track with the Oval program there. That was the plan. And then in grade 11, I went to junior trials for short track, and I don't think I got top 10, but I think I got maybe 11th. And that's, you know, pretty good for a Westerner when I still had a couple years of juniors left. And, you know, short track's very dominated by the Quebec athletes. So, you know, I thought that was pretty good. And I was like, yeah, I could see potential in this. And then I just went to junior trials in long track and just kind of made the team. Somewhat surprisingly, not totally out of the blue. Like I was skating, but because my season short track in the fall, I wasn't really racing long track. So I didn't really know like where I was at. And then he trained a little bit and then came to Calgary in the beginning of January. And I was like, oh, I made the junior world team. That's pretty good. Like maybe I need to switch to long track. Maybe I should enjoy this a little bit more. And then as I got, you know, the next year, I got a concussion in short track and didn't race it as much. And I just kind of got over the whole people taking me out and why can't I just go and race as fast as I can and win? My mom was like, well, that's long track. Yeah. Like short track, you have to jostle and people are going to pass you if you go out and lead the whole thing. Like that's long track. If you want to race as fast as you can and not have anyone in your way, you should do long track. And so grade 11 is kind of when grade 11 and 12 is when I was like, yeah, okay, I'm way better suited and body size too. I'm just, you know, better suited for long track. And so that's when I was like, okay, I'll make the switch.
So you were kind of lucky. Your first junior world, you got to go to Kalabo, which everybody seems to think is the place to skate in the world. And then you went in 2015, you went to Poland. So in 14 was the concussion why you didn't do junior worlds that season?
Yeah, so I got a concussion racing short track in October, middle of October. And so then, you know, I was off for about a month from real training. And I wasn't doing a ton in high school. Like I had, you know, I kind of surpassed my mom in terms of like training programs. So we had someone down in Calgary. They were writing my programs for me. So it was very much like you need to take time off and we got to make sure that you're healthy. And, you know, obviously now I'm grateful that I did take the time that I needed for my concussion. But I actually did somewhat qualify for the team. I had put myself in a good position. They just chose a different avenue for the team that year. They took the 4th sprinter instead of the 4th all-around skater, which I was a 4th all-around skater, but I wasn't the 4th sprinter. So I, you know, put myself in a good position and you know, the Speedskate Canada just decided a different way. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't go. I wasn't, I think, at my best either, just because it was in January and I was still kind of getting back into training and everything. So I didn't maybe put my best foot forward at that trials, but in the grand scheme of things, I probably should have gone because at that point, juniors was still very, very much all around competition. But you know, it didn't make or break my career. I came back the next year and made it. And obviously in grade 12, I was pretty devastated about it. And it took me a while to come to terms with it. But again, it didn't break my career. I would have loved to go, but I went the next year and kind of proved that, you know, I should have been on the team, but got my experience there in Poland.
So is it accurate to say that your first real kind of senior more international event was the Four Continents in Milwaukee.
Yeah, that was the first senior World Cup that I did. I obviously kind of was hoping after I made Junior Worlds in 2015 that I was in Calgary and I moved to the national team the next year, and I was going to make World Cups and go to the Olympics in 2018, and that obviously did not happen. It kind of took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. Like, when you're 16 or 17, you make Junior Worlds, you kind of expect your career to keep going upwards, and it didn't. And I struggled a bit, and finally got my chance in 2020 to go to Four Continents, and I think that was the inaugural one, so we didn't really know what it was going to be. And for me, luckily, we didn't send like our top A team, so a lot of us got the opportunity to go and have that competition. And then I had my first World Cup in Calgary. First real World Cup was in Calgary a week later after Four Continents, and then COVID came and shut everything down.
So when you look back at those years after doing the Junior Worlds, do you feel like, I guess, what did you learn? You kind of already said it, like maybe you sort of just made some assumptions about, oh, well, then I just do this, and then I go here and I go there, and I'll just get better. Mm-hmm. How did that shape you?
Yeah, I definitely learned how to work through a lot of adversity, and try to tell everyone speed skating is not a linear, nothing is, but especially speed skating, it is not a linear sport. There's highs and lows and ups and downs, and you got to keep working through those downs, especially through the downs. And looking back at the team that I was in, I maybe wasn't in, there was nowhere else for me to go. I needed to be in that kind of middle distance group, but it was more middle to long distance group. And looking back at it now and just knowing my body more, and I was just for sure overtraining myself, and just struggling on that aspect and in other aspects of my life, and that probably didn't help me. But I'm also just one of those athletes that maybe needed a few more years to kind of get training to be able to be to where I am now. And I know we've had a handful of Canadian athletes that have been like that, and just working on myself and working on my mental strength. And I went through some unfortunate things happen in 2018 with my family, and that also taught me how to be more resilient, but also look at my mental health. And when I am struggling, to take time off or go home to the farm. That was something I really found helpful, and just being with my family. So it made me work a lot harder, and I think that helped me through COVID too, to like keep working, because I knew that I really wanted the Olympics, and I know everyone wants the Olympics, but it just made me that much stronger during that time when it was unknown, to keep working hard. And it obviously worked out.
Yeah, it definitely did, because you had that whole season where basically nothing happened, and then when you look at the 21-22 season, what I saw was some World Cups, and then you made the Olympic team in two distances. Mm-hmm. So I guess I gotta believe that somewhere in that time you dug deep into an area of just self-belief, and maybe you had a better coaching situation, or like, do you really remember like the fall of 21, how you felt? And
I honestly don't really remember. I think a lot of it came from just like trying to prove to myself and everyone around me, because I knew that I had been kind of counted out for sure. The year of not being able to race and not going to the bubble, that was unfortunate. I would have loved to go, but I hadn't made the team before, so I kind of knew that was coming. And that whole season, every time I felt like not training or kind of giving up, and I was like, I don't want to feel like I did in 2018 of like being off the team and not qualifying and not putting my best foot forward. So every time it pained me in the summer of 2021, I was like, the Olympics are there. And we had some stuff in the summer, and I'm pretty, I know that the team, like Speedskating Canada, was not expecting me to make the team, just based off of certain things. And I hadn't made World Cups that much, so it's not totally unrealistic to think that I wasn't going to make it. But I was like, no, I'm going to prove everyone wrong, that I am supposed to be on this team in 2022. And I just think I believed more in myself, and I had a lot more belief in Remelt. And I think we sat down more and really figured out what was best for my body. And sometimes it is, not doing as many laps right off the bat, or maybe doing a few less sets, or not extra, but less sets. And it's not me, not wanting to work hard. It's just knowing my body and knowing what maybe I need, and some of the girls need more and I need less. So that was a big thing of just really trusting myself and trusting Rummel in the program. And Shannon too, it wasn't just Rummel. That we have Shannon Rumpel as our women's coach as well, and just trusting both of them, and they put a lot of faith in me, and confidence. And then I came out at trials and qualified and had some really good races, especially in Salt Lake, and Salt Lake kind of solidified my spot on the Olympic team for sure that weekend.
So can you remember the couple days before the Olympic qualifiers that year and how you felt? Were you going into it with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder?
Yeah, we didn't actually have Olympic trials because they were canceled like literally days before. Well, I guess a week before. But we were supposed to have Olympic trials in Quebec City over Christmas, and Quebec City and all of Canada, but I think specifically Quebec City started getting really bad with COVID cases, and the facility wasn't sure if they could be open, and with government restrictions, and most of the team had flown out there already. Like, I was there in Quebec that day, and then got the email that night and that trials were canceled. And it kind of had been in the mix for a while, being like, can we make this happen? And they already shut down one of the competitions, and it was just all very overwhelming. And I think I kind of went in with, I think I was probably more nervous going to those, potential trials, because I was like, I know I skated so well that I should make the team. But then I started over analyzing things and second guessing myself. And I was actually really worried to go into those trials, to be honest. But I knew that I could skate well. It just, I started getting more anxious because I felt like I had this pressure on myself. And then they chose the team based off of, the World Cups. Which, some people were okay with, and, obviously people were upset with, but it was very similar to choosing the team for the bubble. We had to go back to something. Yeah, COVID was an unforeseen circumstance. You have to go to something. And I had the fastest 1,000 and the third fastest 1,500 for the World Cups circuit. And that, those solidified my times. And, although we didn't have trials, I absolutely feel like I earned my spot there and deserved to go. But it was kind of a weird way to make the team, because we didn't have trials. We had, the World Cups, which some countries do. And, I still think a lot of countries choose their team off the World Cups. We just aren't one of those usually, but it just happened to be that. So for sure, there was a lot of really excitement and feeling like I deserved it, but also some of that kind of weird feeling that I was like, I don't know if that imposter syndrome for sure was there.
Yeah. You mentioned a race in Salt Lake that sort of made you feel like it was verified. Was that a World Cup?
Yeah, that was the Salt Lake World Cup. I skated both my PBs there. I was I was skating well, but those just were I did my 1:14.6 and 1:54.9, which I haven't really I've come close to my 1,000. The 1,500 has been a bit of more of a struggle, and I've also learned that now when you go to World Cups, sometimes the weekend you skate the best is on slow ice, right? I've only skated once in Calgary this season on really fast ice at a time that it mattered, and everything else has been in Quebec or other places, and I didn't get to skate the 1,500s the second half of the season this year, so I kept feeling like those PBs are attainable, and I haven't been able to get them. But, I obviously did them at one point, and I'm, hoping to get back to them. But those both, my mom, my best friend surprised me, but my mom and my aunt came down. And in Salt Lake, I'd never skated there, so I had no idea where to look for the time board. I kind of just came across and was like, where's the time? And I heard them screaming both races. So I'm like, hey, it's got to be good, because my mom doesn't scream when it's, just an okay or good race. It had to be a really good race. And so both times I was like, oh my God, how did I do that?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. They have the little tiny board that's up here to your left. But at that one, I always get wrong, especially after something like a 1,500, because I can't really see, everything's blurry at that point. And then I just look up and I'm looking for numbers, and I'm like, none of this shit means anything. I'm going to put my head down, and then when I get on the backstretch, I will look at my coach and I'll see what his demeanor is, and then I'll know.
Yeah.
So I've asked everybody this over and over, and it's probably getting old, but when you look back at the 2022 games with all of the restrictions and weirdness that was going on there, did you still manage to have an epic, unforgettable experience?
I mean, it was definitely one of the, greatest months of my life. So, going and having this lifelong dream of mine come true. It definitely was. It was going to be different. I've never been to Olympics, so I have no idea. But just talking with my teammates and knowing that I went to Vancouver Olympics to watch a family friend, two of them skate. So I knew the kind of the vibes of the Olympics and the Canada House and being able to see everyone. And obviously that was not the case in Beijing. We had my team, and then, the guys from the Olympic Gold Bar were there. I think 4 of them were there making the ice. So you kind of had a familiar face there, but, basically everything else was very different and no one was there. And it was incredible. I had a good time with my teammates. There was some, not so fun times. I think just at the Olympics, the feelings are just like the highs are really, really high and the lows are very, very low. At least my experience was that, because as soon as you start feeling low, you're like, I can't feel bad. Like, I can't feel sad. I'm here. Anyone would kill to be in my spot. But it's also like, you don't have very rarely a month of amazing days, right? You're going to have some bad days. And I think it just, the whole experience kind of like exacerbated those lows for me, at least. But again, I had a great team. The girls I was rooming with were amazing. My coach and, my family back home was able to like help lift me up, obviously, during those tough days. And I didn't race as well as I wanted to. And I was, obviously upset at that. But it for sure was incredible. The gear was awesome. The experience, the closing ceremonies were, so amazing. It just kind of like all these dreams coming true was really amazing. But there was some tough days there for sure.
So you wanted an Olympic spot really bad as far back as heading into the 18 games. 22 happened for you. How, as we sit here right this minute, how bad do you want 26?
I mean, I want it just as much as I want 21 and 2022, but I think I know what I'm capable of now. So it seems like 2026 is like, well, I want to be top 10. Like, I mean, maybe not every skater in my mind, your dream should be an Olympic gold, right? Like, that's the pinnacle of skating, is you want to win in a medal. And whether or not that's a realistic goal is, it, in my mind, it's every athlete's dream is to win the gold medal. So obviously that's what I want to do. And, as of right now, I'm pretty far off that. But I think looking at 2026, it's not as much of a, like 2022, I was like, I don't know. Like, even 6 months in, I was like, I don't know where I'm at. And now looking at these past 2 seasons, I'm like, oh, like, I mean, it may be cocky, but I'm like, oh, I'll be there. It's just like how well I'm going to do when I get there is kind of like now my motivation, right? It's like, I'm going to be there. I'm telling, kind of that manifestation, like I'm going to be there. And in those Olympics, those are the games that like I want to really perform and not just be there kind of as like, guys, I'm here, and just be proud of me, which kind of was 2022. Like I was there and I was just so proud to be there. But 2026 is like, these are my games that I want to like really be in the field. Like, I want to be a competitor. And that's kind of like how my motivation is now, of being at like the best and not just being there.
Who is the most important person to you to make sure that you get to that goal? Is it Renault?
I mean, me, but well, for sure.
Okay, who's the most important support person?
Support. Yeah. I would say Rummel and Shannon for sure. I mean, Shannon's gone right now, which is unfortunate for us. She just had a baby, so she's gone up until January. So I mean, she's still going to be around, but she's obviously not coaching, which is a hit for us because I love her so much. And Rummel is amazing, but sometimes you just need a different perspective, or you just need a female to have that connection with. So Rummel and I have sat down, and we have a pretty good support staff and IST team. So our physios and our weight trainers, but at the end of the day, I think, it's Rummel and I and Shannon kind of building a program. And I know Rummel has a lot of faith in me. He's, tells me like, you should be doing 26s in your thousands. And I'm like, well, how do I get there, man? Because I'm still doing high 27s. Like, I know you think I can, but how do we do that? And I think we've learned a lot these past couple of years, and knowing what we need to do in the next couple of years, I think we've got, kind of a good outward plan of it. We have to obviously start digging deeper to like the nitty gritties, but right now, like, I think we've got a good plan, and I have a lot of faith in him to take me to where I have to be. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this coming season. I know we were just kind of starting to train, but I think this season is going to be a good stepping stone to next year and kind of see what we need to do.
So you and I are sitting here on a Sunday. It's what, mid-April. How soon are you gonna pack up everything and head to Calgary?
So I've actually been back and forth. I have a job at the Oval, at the Olympic Oval. I'm a supervisor there. So when I have shifts there, I'm working there. And then my dad calls me up and says, "Hey, we need you at the farm." So I drive in and do the 2 hours back to the farm. Friday, I worked until 7, and then I drove straight to Ponoka. And then yesterday morning I was at the farm. So I will be this will be my kind of a bit of my last stint at the farm for the time being. I'm going to San Francisco next weekend, and then kind of the full training starts. Group training starts on May 6th, but a lot of us have been, everyone is biking or running or swimming or doing something just to stay active. So, but our group training doesn't start until May, but probably I'll be back full time in Calgary pretty soon.
Are you guys on inline skates in the summer at all?
Yes. I don't like inlining. I had a really bad crash in 2020, and I ripped my whole backside up. I really and I still have certain areas that I can't feel because I scraped so much of the skin and the nerves. And that was definitely traumatizing. I was going way too fast and hit a pole, and it was just not fun. So I understand the benefits of inline, and last year I didn't fall. The year before, I fell a couple times, and I was like, Rummel, I'm done. I'm not doing this. No. Last year I didn't fall, so that was a big bonus for me. It's not a big thing in Canada, to grow up doing it or to really compete. So a lot of us are pretty amateur at it. So I'm not very good, but I understand the concept and the training benefits of it. So we'll probably be doing it again this year. Maybe not as much, but we do it. Yeah. When you guys do short track training,
is the inlining just straight on some type of trail, or are you actually doing a 400 oval somewhere?
Yeah. So we just find trails around. There's all of the outdoor 400 meter tracks in Calgary, are rubberized, or we haven't been able to find one that's not rubberized, basically. Yeah. So we've found paths. We've gone around communities. The paths is where I've fallen multiple times and killed a few gophers by accident. So we did find a new kind of loop. It's a 2.5, no, is it 2K? 1K loop. It's around a pond. So you get some corners. It's a loop, so it's kind of more similar to skating, but that's also in the middle of a community, and people aren't always willing to have 15 people skating around. So it's definitely been a hard thing to find a place to go that we're comfortable and safe, and it works.
Are you still a good short tracker?
I'd like to say I'm still decent. There's definitely some people like Evany and Hayden have both, were done short track more at a higher level than I did and more recently, and they still whip by me. I think if I trained a little bit, I could still be decent, but I'm better than some, not the best for sure, but I don't think I'm definitely, on the middle scale, I would say, for the female skaters for sure.
When you guys do short track, is the goal to just sit there and grind away in a low skating position and pile up volume, or are you doing other stuff?
Yeah, it's been it's changed year by year, just depending on what kind of, because we do a lot of group training, so the coaches kind of come together and they decide the program. So kind of depends on who's running the programs. We do a lot of relays and just kind of downtime and working on the position, because it's easy to do position when you're more easy to do at skating than do inline, or when people aren't comfortable, or imitation. So a lot of it is just like really starting to focus on those skating technical points of being low and your hips under and your knees forward and all this stuff. And I do think short tracks are a really good training benefit to long track, especially for the corners. And it's obviously different, but I think there's a lot of benefit to it. So yeah, mostly just like we're not going ham. We're not doing like nines and super fast stuff. It's more slow and long stuff to just start building up that position.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I just think there's definitely times when we look at each other, because I have no short track background. I've only done it for a couple of summers now, and there's times where you're kind of feeling good and you start letting it rip, and then it's like, do I really want to risk going down, and take out my entire long track season because I got cocky? So I'm always curious about that. I mean, I know that Shawnee Davis talked about it endlessly, that there's nothing in the world that prepares you better for like 1,000 or a 15 than just doing a shit ton of short track. And he did a lot of short track training, and he was just really, really big on that. And I think it was just being in position for really long periods of time and just grinding out tons of laps and being super comfortable when you're really, really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I for sure agree with that, of learning to be uncomfortable on something you're supposed to be, wanting to feel comfortable. And the only way to get better is to be uncomfortable. And for sure, short track is one of those things. And we do have two ice surfaces. One is a hockey rink and one's an international size. And I would say I definitely feel way more comfortable more on the international size because you have more space. The hockey rink can get a little bit small, which frightens me a little bit more, and the ice gets a little bit more chewed up. But I still think it's very good to be uncomfortable.
I agree. So let's talk about some recent things that have happened that were super duper cool. So last year was an interesting year on the circuit because we had a single distance world championship, and it was in Calgary. And then we had, they jammed the all around and the sprint into the same weekend. So let's talk about that magical weekend in Calgary. Last year was the first year that you jumped in with the sprint team, or the team sprint, I should say. You guys had some really good races, but Calgary was awesome. National record. What do you think about team sprint?
I love it. I mean, I'm biased because I'm in it, but I did it actually in my last Junior Worlds in 2015. There was a team sprint, and I did it, and it was fun. Yeah, I kind of like thinking back onto when it started becoming a thing. Like 2015, for sure, there was a team sprint, and then it took a while for it to get to the World Cups, and even Olympic year there was only one. The 2022-2023 season is when it first was like kind of split. I think it's so much fun, and talking with my parents and friends, like more people would rather watch that than the team pursuit if they don't know speed skating, right? Because it's exciting, it's quick, it's fast. They see what's going on. And the TP is very hard to like understand if you don't really know speed skating. So I love it. I think it's a great distance. I wish it was in the Olympics. It's not in there yet, but maybe eventually it will be in 2030. But I don't know. I just think it's so fun, and it's not just like going out and skating as fast as you can, as we've seen, because some teams do that and they don't do as well. Like there is a lot of technique behind it, and tactical stuff, I guess, more so than technique behind it, and like how you do it, and make sure you're not dropping people. And the slingshot became a thing, and there's just so many things that's changing that I love it. It's such a fun distance.
Well, I think the slingshot was the reason why you launched Evany into that incredible last lap, and we're going to watch this in slow motion because I think you did an exemplary job with this exchange. Let's watch this. I think that's about perfect. I don't know if you can do it better than that.
Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, that was and I mean there's a few things that are the reason I think why Evany and I do it so well together. One, we both have short track backgrounds. So we kind of, the slingshot's obviously not used as much in the relay, but if you miss an exchange, you slingshot. And I remember doing it growing up. And so it is used, obviously, and we do it in training if you miss an exchange. And another thing is, like, I have probably 30 pounds on Evany, maybe a little bit less. I don't know. She's quite small, and I'm, taller and a bigger skater. And so I've got more weight. And so, if you have someone that's the opposite, it's going to be harder. If we switched, it's a lot harder for Evany to whip me than it is for me to whip her. So I think that's a big thing too, is because, there's such that, like, I have so much power, and she just knows what to do. And it was funny because we didn't really plan it, like, she, because she does so many races, and in Beijing, she had just finished the 3K, I think, and was exhausted, and we had all of our stuff on, no talk about it, nothing. We didn't even watch the American guys do it. And, like, I didn't even know that they had done it because I didn't watch the men's team sprint. And maybe she had, I don't know. I think she just kind of was like, I'm so exhausted. Like, literally, like, minutes before, she looked at me and was like, if I put my hand back, do you think you can slingshot me? And I was like, sure, let's try it. Like, we kind of haven't trained and done anything with team sprint. Like, we might as well try it. And I whipped her, and she was like, oh my God, like, that helped me so much. Like, I just had that boost. And then you saw the other countries trying to do it, and they were, like, not doing it the same as us. Yeah. And yeah, it just was something that we didn't ever practice. We never planned. We did it, and it worked. And then we continued to do it. And, again, I'm biased, but I think we probably do it the best out of anyone.
How often do you practice it?
We have practiced it 3 times, maybe. We did it before. So I know the thing is, we don't even practice it. But the thing is, I also did it. Team Sprint did it, and finale, like the last competition this season, I did it with another teammate, and it did not go the same way. I fell on my knees. I biffed it. Like, it just, there's something with Evany and I that we just know. And I think more it comes, like, from her knowing not to skate. Like, I think that's a problem, is that people try to skate, they don't know where to hold their arm. And we just have such a good thing that we practice it once before Continents one. And then we practiced it before Quebec, which really didn't need to happen because I fell. So we were out of that race immediately. And then once in Calgary. And, I think it's just not overthinking it, like, knowing what you have to do and not try to overthink it too much, because that does happen. And yeah, we just have such a good, connection between the two of us that it works amazingly.
Well, you made the world sprint, so you were in Inzel and you got your 4 races in. That's one good thing about the sprint, is you get all 4 races. If you go to an all-around, you get cut and you don't get to do the long distance.
Yeah.
But I suppose for some people it's like, oh, I don't have to do a 10K. This is awesome.
Yeah.
As we're sitting here right now, as you're looking back to that weekend in Inzel, give yourself a grade for your performance in that event.
I mean, I think the second day I had, like, it was an A-, but the first day was like a B-. It's hard to, like, put them, because it is, like, 2 races, and, like, my 500s, which I said I'm not a 500-meter skater. So, I was hoping that my 500s would go okay, my 1000s would be really good. And my first 500, it was not bad. Like, I'm happy when I'm doing low 39s anywhere, Calgary or, Inzel, I did a low 39, and I was happy with it. And then my 1000, I don't know. I got in my head. I was trying too hard. I had a huge slip and just, like, dumped all my speed and just did a race that was just so not, it was just not good. Seeing everyone else race, and I'm like, man, I should have been a lot faster, a lot better. And then my other 2 races on the next day were great. But again, it's one of those things where you can't have, like, I mean, you can, depending on where you are, but it was 3 good races and one, like, I would say really bad race that just kind of dumped me down the rankings. And I was obviously disappointed with that. But that was, just a really good experience too. I thought on the second day, I was like, okay, I need to stop looking at other people, stop, like, just, I have a race plan, focus on that, do what I need to do. And then it turned out a lot better. So I would say it was like a B+ weekend with maybe a little A- here and there.
Let's look, because you're such a 500 skater and you love to talk about the 500. Let's look a little bit at your second corner. This is your second 500 of the weekend. So you went high 38, I think, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So let's take a look at this. So I want you to watch a little bit of this, and then let's talk about your corner technique.
It's so weird seeing yourself skate. Oh my gosh.
Isn't it? Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
It can be humbling.
Yeah.
I like this last part though, because you are in a perfectly loaded position there. I like that one. So,
yeah.
I mean, you've got a lot of experience on short track, and is it fair to say that your corners are your strength?
They honestly, it's kind of gone back and forth. Like it was a long time where I was really like I had some like good corners, and my straights kind of struggled, just the technique, and I was popping up too much and just not in two footing too much. And now it seems like I've gotten my my straights I feel like pretty comfortable in. It's the corners now that like I think once you reach a certain speed, it becomes like really not make or break, but you can get away. It's like, skating 40s and 40s, but to skate a, 39 or a 38, like it's a lot harder than some people think. And there's so many more little things that come into play, and every little thing in the corner entry, where you hit the apex, how your position is, all that has a really big impact on like how fast you go or how slow you go. And so now I'm kind of at that level where the corners, I like to dive into them. And that's just been a big issue of, I just dump my speed. So I would say my corners are, good, but when I'm behind the boys, they're great. It's just as soon as I get on my own, that's when I start struggling. Just like with my track pattern. So that is like honestly a big thing kind of leading into this season, is Rummel and I have talked about on how we can get those corners like that much better. Because the straights are good, but the corners I gotta gain some more speed there.
What do you mean by dive into? And I guess in the explanation of dive into, how are you dumping speed?
So I have like I tend to like go, you don't want to go too close to the pucks and too close to the outside pucks. You kind of want to be in the middle of the track and when you go in, and so I tend to do that, and then but I go into the pucks like immediately. Like it's
okay.
I don't know how to explain it really well. It's just like go in, and instead of like coming around and like having a good turning radius and like hitting the apex and then coming out, it's like I go in and I'm on the pucks like too soon, and that means I have nowhere to lean. Like I kind of go in and then I'm on the pucks. I can't lean in more. And then especially I can see it when I'm with some of the guys, is that I'm on them, and then as soon as they start building up the corner, I get dropped. So it's really just like that track pattern of like when you're coming and you're going like this, instead of kind of like here, dump, and then you're on the track, right? It's just getting too close to the pucks and just losing that like perfect track pattern. And it's just, not, it's not a way to keep your speed going. Like some of the guys, they're really, really wide, and that's just better for the track pattern and the gravity. And Rummel tells me stuff and I say, okay. Well, but I do understand it,
It's taken me forever to understand that the turning should come from your lean, not from guiding with your upper body, which I've just done the entire time I've been in the sport, and I'm finally getting. I mean, really where I learned to internalize that was on short track, because you almost can't steer because you're going to crash, so you have to be able to use lean in order to produce turn. But anyway, I think about that stuff all the time, even when I'm driving around. So let's look at a start. This is your 1,000, I think, from the final day. You had outer?
Yes, this is my final day, yeah.
So when you look at your starts, has this been a point of strength for you, would you say, in your career?
It's kind of like a little bit of both. Again, like I've had the good starts, and then to I've struggled to kind of like reach that next level. And it's funny because I start so much better on the outer, like specifically in the thousands. I start better on the outer. Rummel says you start better on the outer, but you finish better on the inner. And I'm like, well, that's the complete opposite of the 1,000 meter. Like you start where you finish. So that's where I got to try and figure out how to start on the outer and finish on the outer, or I have to finish, I want to finish on the inner because, it's easier, but I need to be able to figure out, like I go, most of the time, like 2 to 3 tenths faster on the outer, which doesn't always make sense. And I don't know why. I think I just get it in my head. And, yeah, it's something that I'm still working on because, the starts are there, but they're not as, I lose a lot in the openers in both the 1,000 and the 500, more. So like I have the same lap, if not faster laps than people in the 1,000s and the 500, but they open like, 6 tenths faster than me in the 500 or almost a second faster than me in the 1,000. And it's just like the only way to catch those girls is if I, start faster. And, I've done a lot more start work this year. And it was getting there, but it's still something I got to work on. And I wouldn't classify it as a strength right now.
So
it's kind of my weak point.
When you look at a 1,000 opener, are you like high 18s?
I'm like mid to low. Well, I would say mid. I'm mostly mid. Like my fastest one is 18.4. And I haven't hit the 19s in a really long time. I'm usually, 18.8 I think is like a bad one. But for the most part, I'm like 18.5, 6, 7. And, Erin's obviously like not a great example because she's so fast, but she's doing, like 17.6, and that's a full second faster than me. And any of the girls really, if you're getting low 18s or high 17s, you just bank so much speed. And I really got to, I don't know if I'm ever going to hit a 17, but I think I can more consistently get like low 18s for sure. Yeah.
Well, that'll get you the 6 that Remmelt wants then.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's what I always hear. If you want a fast lap, you just got to have a better opener.
Yes. So I'm trying. It'd be so much easier to have been done, right?
You should have just said it from the beginning. I would have been right there.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about cattle farming. Let's look at some pictures. Well, first off, let's look at this lovely picture. So these are your sisters.
Yeah. And that is Calvin.
Yeah. So you said your younger sister is living on the farm right now?
Yeah. So we have a house out there, and she's kind of was always going to be the one to take it over. So she's working full-time with my dad, and full-time right now. She does 2 jobs. So she works on the farm, and then she works called Genetic Ventures. It's a artificial insemination company. So she does like a lot of artificial insemination with all the dairy farms around kind of central Alberta. So that's her job, and she, depending on the season, right now we're calving, so she's not doing that. But I think it's usually like 1 week on, 1 week off. So 1 week she's doing AIing, the other week she's with my dad full time.
How many acres is this farm?
So we have a half section, so it's about 350 acres. So it's a long story short of why we don't live out there is that it was my dad and his family lived out there, and my dad's parents both passed away kind of suddenly when he was 25, and so he has 4 other siblings and he was the oldest one, so he kind of went back to help take over the farm because my grandpa just passed away suddenly. So he went to take it over because the farm was given to my dad and my uncle. So they were both living out there, and then my dad was also a phys ed teacher for 25 years. So when my parents got married, my mom was working in Edmonton and my dad was teaching in Ponoka and working on the farm. And so it kind of just made more sense to move to Ponoka where my dad was teaching, and then he could kind of go back and forth and not kick my uncle out because he was, single at the time, and it just made more sense for him to live there. And then him and his family lived there while they were working on the farm together. And then my dad quit teaching, went full into farming in the early 2000s, and then my uncle left the farm to do oil. So it's just my dad out there, but they were still living at the farm, so we weren't going to like kick them out or anything. So it just, if people kind of don't know why we don't live out there, but it's just the way that things work that we weren't out there. But my dad drives every day, and sometimes probably a good breather for him not to be at the farm, like living out there. I think he would never leave if we actually lived out there. So it's kind of nice that he's got a bit of separation.
So when we were preparing to get together to this for this shoot, you said that you could make the time as long as a cow didn't get out. So is that a thing that happens?
Oh yeah, cows get out all the time. We have 500 head, so that means we have 500 cows, and they will give birth to 500 calves. Obviously, give or take. That's not exact, but so we will eventually have 1,000 head. We rent a bunch of pasture land, so once they're done calving, we move them, so they're not actually all on our property. But cattle are very herd bound. They're not the smartest animals in the world, so. And I mean, you also have human error, like forgetting to open or leave a gate open. Like, you go in to check, you leave the gate open, they're going to find it, that just happens. So, when I was joking around of not having any cattle out, they'll, get out on the road, the neighbor will call, they'll be in the feed, the yard. Doesn't happen as much anymore, but it's always the phone call you don't want to hear is, hey, you have about 50 cattle out, or, whatever. So, or there's no crises of calving or anything, but oh yeah, the cows get out. They know where the weak fences are, and they'll push and push. And, we have them all separated depending on, heifers are first time calvers. And then we have the other ones that, are 2, 3, 5 year calvers. And then we have new ones that we bought. And so they're kind of all over the place. So you don't really want them to get mixed up. So it's, they're animals, so you have to deal with them, but sometimes it's very frustrating.
Well, you obviously know a lot about cattle farming, but right now you're very focused on speed skating. Do you give yourself the opportunity to take a moment and think about what you want to do after skating?
I mean, I do. It's kind of a constant, maybe not constant, but it's a struggle I for sure have. I love the farm, and I definitely have a keen interest in agriculture, or, sustainability of agriculture and what that's going to look like for my family. And, my sister, she wants to have the farm. We all want to, be involved in it. So I've got some sort of interest in that. I finished my Bachelor of Kinesiology in 2021. So, I have a degree in kines. So, obviously sports and healthcare world is very interesting to me as well. My older sister's a nurse. So, there's a lean in that direction. I'm also the athlete representative for Speedskating Canada. So I've done that for 2 years now. So I have, I'm really enjoying being part of changes within the sport and making it better, and having a voice to, be that one to, fight for what is better for us, and fight for things that we need, and not be afraid to kind of stand up for us. So I've also had some sort of an interest in administrative of sport, and my dad always jokes that I'll be the CEO of Speedskating Canada one day, but I don't know if I have the education for that, but I would love to, stay in that, and whether it be a voluntary role on a board, or maybe one day I'll be the high performance director. I don't know. I have a really hard time. I'm really deciding on what I want to do after skating.
Yeah. Well, the good news is you don't have to make that decision right now. I think 26 is certainly something you're focused on, and then we'll see what happens after that, because at that point you'll be 30.
Yeah, I'll just turn 30. So it's also because my career started a little bit later than I would anticipated. I only started making stuff at I guess 24, and then skipped a year, and then the Olympics I was 26. So I've really only had 2 seasons of World Cups, and I look into the future and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be ready after 2 more years. I feel like I'm just getting into it. I'm just making friends. I feel like I'm just understanding my body and how to race, and I don't know if I'm going to be done in 2 years. So yeah. But then looking at doing another 6 years is something. So I think for sure it's to the, and I think a lot of people have said this, or say this now, I'm going to the Olympics, and then I'll take it as it is. And if I want to do another year or another 2 and then retire, I'll just see. It really just depends on a lot of things. And, my parents are pretty supportive of, my dad would be happy if I skated for the rest of my life. Obviously I can't, but he's like, just keep skating, keep following your dreams. I love it. Just do it. You can't skate forever. You can work and go to school forever, but you can't skate. And, my mom's very supportive too, but, at times she's kind of the more on okay, well, you will not skate forever. You need to kind of have a plan of what you want to do. I mean, I'm ahead of some people with a degree and job experience, but it's still, I don't know. It's hard.
Well, like I said, you don't have to make a decision right now, and it sounds like you've
Thankfully.
you've gotten yourself. I think you've gotten yourself set up to be able to make some decisions and have it be on your terms, which would be best. What kind of skater was your mom?
She was a sprinter. She was quite good when she was young. I think she went to Canada Winter Games at 13 and won a bronze medal there. So she definitely excelled at a younger age. She didn't skate, obviously as long as I did. You just didn't do that. She retired when she was 18 or 19. And then she played softball for the women's national team and won a Pan Am gold with them. So
Jeez.
It wasn't speed skating, but yeah, sports is very big in our family. My dad was a pretty big multi-sport athlete and was a phys ed teacher. So sport in general in our family, and both my sisters are athletes. It's very important. And my parents are my biggest role models and people I look up to and have definitely taught me a lot. So I'm pretty grateful to have them be so supportive and be such a big part of my life.
That's awesome. An older sister moved to Scotland?
Yes, she was there for 4 years. She followed the boy, and thankfully they got married and came here. So.
Oh, so they're back.
Yes, so
okay.
She moved. Yeah, they did long distance for a little bit, and she met him when she was traveling, and then came home, and then they started dating, and she moved there. It was only supposed to be 2 years with COVID and everything, and he went into law school, so they were there for 4 years, and then they got married last summer, and then officially moved back to Canada, and they're in Ponoka, not far from my parents.
Oh, all right. So you get to see the family a lot. That's a good thing.
I do. Yeah, and it's nice because my brother-in-law Peter is, he's a full-blown Scot, so he'd never really seen a cow before he came to Canada, and now he's working on the farm on the weekends and learning the trade and getting very involved. Doesn't always know what he's doing, but it's great to have an extra hand, and he really enjoys it, so it's nice to have him there for sure.
How's your Scottish accent?
Oh, I don't think my Scottish accent is that bad, but my sister says it's atrocious, so I will not do it. But once you get around the people, like especially once you're over there, I went and visited her a couple times, and you start kind of picking it up. But there are also times, especially when, you've had a drink or two, and I'm like, they're not speaking English. Like, I can't understand them.
Yeah, I've had that same experience. Every time I try to do an Irish accent, it comes out Scottish, so I decided to just give up on that stuff.
Mine always turns to like Italian or Russian, and I don't know why, but it just seems to really know how to do those ones, and yeah.
I have one image left that we didn't show, but I want to show it now because it's a fantastic moment. I love that picture. That is such a good one. That was a good moment. Yeah, it was a pretty incredible moment, and to have my family there and some friends and on home ice, and I didn't cry too much, but I definitely was like tearing up because it's just incredible to like have the national anthem be played and have people around you, and to do something like that is to be a world champion. It's pretty special, and you don't get to hear the national anthem too many times, so you got to soak it in when you can. So it was pretty awesome, and I was really happy to share it with those girls. Yeah, that was cool. You guys performed great. You deserved it. It was
next is the world record, but that one's hard though. Yeah, it's like 124.0. It's because we did a 125.0, and the world record's the Dutch from 2020, 124. I'm like, we got to go second faster. So it's doable, but it's definitely it's gonna be hard.
That's
to
a big ask. Damn.
Yeah, we got to go faster to start for sure.
Jesus.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll get her.
All right. Well, I've heard rumors that the Pettit Center in Milwaukee is supposed to have a World Cup this year. I keep hearing that it's going to happen and that it isn't going to happen, but if it does happen, I have this dream to try to get together as many people as possible that I've interviewed and shove them all together in one photo. So
ooh, yeah.
I'm
appointing
you cruise director, so you have to herd all these cats and get them together. Okay,
I got to go through and make sure I got everyone that you've interviewed.
Good
and
luck
get us
with
a big
that.
picture.
Well, some of them are
Yeah.
in other countries and won't be there
Yeah.
and are retired or whatever. But I knew this was going to be a fun one. You were super delightful, as I knew you would be. I think you're really easy to root for, and you're just another person that I've talked to who's had, you stole my word. I always say that the sport is never linear. People have highs and lows, and the ones that figure out how to get through the lows seem to do the best. I think of like Evany, I think of Antoine, just super great stories. I love seeing the smiles. Actually, those two in particular, when you think back to that weekend in Calgary, Antoine, I mean, nobody looks happier at the rink. I mean, he just looks like every single event to him is just a lot like he won the lottery, and I just love it. So
He's a really hard person not to like.
Yeah,
he's a great guy, and he's very
so
positive,
easy
and
to
he's
cheer
really good
for.
to have on the team.
Yeah, but
for sure.
he had some incredibly dark moments, and it's just so cool to see people come back and thrive. So we're gonna keep cheering for you.
Great,
Maddie Pearman.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right, this was a great time. You were a great guest. We're gonna call it now, and we're looking forward to a big 24-25, and then heading into Italy next year. So let's get together when you come to Milwaukee. You've been a great guest, and we are out of here.